cycling through. An AED to the public, to like the fire department, the state has a contract, and we go through that contract, and they're about $600 a piece. So they're not a huge item as far as purchasing. About every 3 years, we have to replace a battery pack, and they're about $100, $120 a piece. Other than that, it's just putting batteries in them and getting a chip from the company to keep them up to date, updated software. So they're not a huge expense, not like they used to be. Yes, sir.
Would it make any sense to put, I don't know, this is just to float the idea out there for future consideration, but like you said, this equipment's expiring in hitting a 10-year expiration. Putting the contingency fund out there and every year, just putting a little bit in it for when stuff like that expires, you don't have to.
You know, we've been fortunate with grants.
Yeah,
Right
you
now,
can't count on grants.
right,
It's great if you get them, but
yeah,
you can count on them.
it would be a nice thing to do. It'd be a nice thing to do. The biggest problem or issue with it is that the cost of our trucks is so much. We have to put so much money into that account. It creates another, if we can replace apparatus on schedule, there'll be a gap in which there'll be time to replace some of this other stuff if grants don't come through. So, if we replace our rescue on schedule, for the next fire apparatus, we're probably looking at, I think we're 7 or 8 years or more down the road. So there's a gap there in which that equipment fund that we're using for apparatus could be used for equipment like air packs. Because air packs, when we bought the ones we have now, we got, it was just under $70,000 to replace them all. And to replace them all now, we're looking at close to $160,000.
How many air packs are there?
Right now, we have 18 in service.
And how much is it for a whole turnout gear? One person to fit, each person?
Coat, pants,
Boots, gloves,
coats and pants, you're looking at about $1,800. Another $200 for boots, another $200 for helmets. And then gloves, hoods, and the miscellaneous stuff, another $100. So that's, our turnout gear. I think 2 years ago, I started putting more money in that line item so I could replace a couple sets a year. Because we have, a turnout gear, same thing, it all got replaced at the same time in a grant. So, it kind of all expires at the same time as far as NFPA is concerned. The way we've been doing it is the most active guys, the gears is getting torn out. We're trying to replace that gear. But our maintenance of gear is, the cost of that is increasing because, once again, it's getting older and we're just trying to keep it serviceable. So we're sending gear out to be repaired versus $1,800 to keep buying new sets. If we made another couple of years by spending $100 in repairs, we're doing that.
Any other questions for Dave?
Okay.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you for your time and watching my show. I told you I was going to run out and get something. I couldn't get the screen going quick enough.
You gonna do page 15, Doug? Health and
am.
safety?
Public safety is, the only real significant change is hydrant rental. There was a cut in the rate, became a little bit less, and that's down. We've increased animal control a little bit. The rate for the communications tower has gone up a little bit. Other than that, it's pretty much, it is the same. So, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have one on hydrant rental while Dave's still here. Didn't some towns have some problems with some hydrants that they were paying for that weren't putting out the water they were supposed to? Dave, I'm not sure if it was Oakland or someplace else.
I'm sorry?
Talking about hydrant rental.
Yes.
Wasn't there some towns that had a problem because the water company wasn't flushing the hydrants and keeping them up to flow?
Yeah, there are, I mean, they're not done by the book here in Oakland by any means, but they're serviceable, they're working. We don't have any out of service right now. So,
I
they
was
don't,
thinking in the paper, there was some town that they
yeah,
were,
I don't think it was
they
Oakland that
weren't
was in the
getting the
paper.
water
but-
quantity out of them that they were supposed to, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think it was Oakland, but they, you know, they, I know when we were evaluated by the insurance company, I know we lost some points on hydrants because they weren't tested as often as they should have been, but.
Dave, when they come out to test these, are you telling us that they are not testing on schedule and as often as they should? And are you there for the testing so that you can see the water go or use it or for training or anything else?
No, we're not usually there. They come and go, that we don't usually know.
They don't tell you. Would it help if you were there? Would it be useful for any instruction time? I don't know what they must be bleeding for a certain amount of
Yeah,
time.
I don't know if they have any regular schedule. It's something we could try to find out from them.
So would it help if they notified you? Would it?
Yeah, we'd get a better idea what the flows were, if they at least reported it to us. Because it changes over time, the flows that you get from hydrants, especially with an older system, because it starts to break, the pipes are all breaking down. So they do get, we've had them before, when we had the mill fire, we flowed a hydrant until it plugged up. We were flowing so much water, but, the inside of the pipes were crumbling, and it was getting caught in the.
You're not reducing the rate, I'm sure.
Yeah, we talked about this last year, and they said that there were places that it wasn't working very well. We were gonna look into, because this expense is substantial every year. And if we're not getting good service, I think the town should be doing something about it, and make sure that, in fact, they're working the way they're supposed to, and if that's the case. And I don't know, has there been anything done since last year? Did you bug them and tell them that we're concerned about that, or is this just, are they untouchable? Is that, do they have the clout that they're not allowed to do anything to them?
The PUC tells them what they can charge, so they're gonna charge them as much as the PUC allows them to.
Well, then they have to provide the
So,
service, though.
then-
I mean, if they're not doing that, I would suspect that, or I don't actually suspect, but I would think that for that kind of money, I mean, this is a big item in the budget. It's not just $20,000. So I would think that the PUC should know about it, that they're not providing the service that they should be providing. I mean,
Yeah,
have you done that?
I'll see if I
It's a
can,
safety issue.
I'll see if
Yeah,
I
I
can
mean,
get their
that's- I don't-
records as
it's-
far as what they've done for testing and what their schedule is for.
Well, I mean, if you have a circumstance where you actually didn't get the service that you wanted to have for a particular operation, then I would think the PUC or somebody that's in control of this stuff should hear from the town that that's not, because
And,
it's a lot of money.
storm-
I've always thought about this as a pitfall in our having to pay this every year. If, in fact, it's doing the service, then okay, I guess you really need it.
Following
But if
the
it's not working, then,
Yeah, following the NFPA standard is something that we could push them on. But a lot of the pitfalls, if you do, is the system itself. The water system, like the sewer system in town, is very old.
well, that's,
And unless
it
they
should be
invest
replaced then.
millions and millions of dollars, which is gonna increase our rates even more.
no.
I don't
It ain't
know, I
working.
don't know what the right
It's
answer
not
is, I guess.
Just a touch base on that, I did have Rick in my office a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about, the cost of water hydrants, and he shared with me that he doesn't set the rates, it is set by PUC.
Oh,
And he has no say over what he charges, it's a price that's predetermined.
Now, who is this?
He's president of Maine Water, the company that we get all of our water from. And,
Is there a process though whereby they can exercise the hydrants more often to keep the pipes
Well,
cleaned out?
there's a standard, and it's whether they follow that standard.
Are they doing it?
Not that I'm aware of. because we don't get any reports from
Well, then
them.
the PUC,
And based on our last,
suspect should be notified that it's
you know,
not.
insurance.
You're not getting the service that we're paying a couple $100,000.
Yeah, but we don't know if they're not or if they are.
That's why I'll look into that. Because like I said, they don't send us a report, this is just based on when the insurance agency does a report.
For whatever it's worth, seems like every 6 months, twice a year, our water that comes out of our tap is brown. So like, you know.
They're
it's
just
rust-colored.
flushing the hydrants then, they're not testing them, they're just flushing them.
Okay, I didn't know if that was the same thing or not.
No.
Okay, so it's, okay.
But as far as service, like if we need something, if we call the water company because we need something, they're very good.
Well, that's the local guys, though.
Yeah.
That's.
Right, but I mean, I just, you know,
Yeah. But if the PUC's setting that kind of money, then I would expect that they should provide the service.
Are there any other questions on public safety?
You didn't know that.
AJ's next, right? AJ.
I
Don't have a presentation, unfortunately, but I'll do my best. Oh,
21.
Personal services, building and ground supervisor was increased due to the 1% cost of living increase. And part-time wages reflects a 50-cent increase for one full-time employee and 3 seasonal employees. And also reflects a 1% cost of living for another full-time employee. Janitorial personnel reflects a 1% increase for 3 janitorial employees. And the overtime fund, for 2 full-time employees is unchanged. The maintenance garage, heating fuel is increased due to fuel costs. Telephone, internet, and cell phone, it's unchanged, that's funds for the phone, internet, cell phone, building security alarm. Also reimbursement for 2 employees' personal use of their personal cell phones. Electricity increased due to cost, and water and sewer is also unchanged. In the contractual services, funds for stone repair and tree removal and cemetery, that is unchanged. And insurance is increased due to cost. Supplies and materials, gas, oil, lube, increased due to cost. Wearing apparel is unchanged. That's clothing allowance for 3 full-time employees. Supplies, funds for cleaning, big products, floor finish, light bulbs, and miscellaneous items is also unchanged. Equipment capital improvements, equipment repair and maintenance, funds for maintenance repair, all vehicle and lawn care equipment is unchanged. Equipment purchases, funds for purchasing ground maintenance equipment and tools, that is also unchanged. Building maintenance repairs, maintained funding for 3 buildings, including furnace servicing, yearly fire extinguisher inspections, that also is unchanged. Memorial Hall, fuels increased with cost. Electricity is unchanged, along with sewer and maintenance repairs also unchanged.
Anybody have any questions for AJ?
Who's your 3 full-time employees?
3.
Yourself.
Myself, Brian Point, and Gary Bowman.
Twin?
Did you say Gary Bowman?
I got 2 full-time
Oh.
jobs.
I think you do.
So, on the fringe benefits, is that why the Department of Course made that big jump there? Was because of additional payroll or staff?
We hired a full-time person, and we increased the salary to get somebody that was more qualified. I'm sure you remember that.
I do.
And part of that, in order to retain this qualified person, we offered him benefits, and which actually, with the with the Affordable Care Act, it was beneficial for us, and it helped keep our costs down by offering benefits.
Has that worked out well for you?
It's worked out
Enough
great.
people? All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, good. No, you're busy.
gonna be busy.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
The only one left in the room, so.
Rushed right through that, now we got all kinds of time left.
And no presentation. But you know, we could put Chief Coughlin back up there because he's right, we do work together very well. We work together a lot, and we saw a lot of examples of that. We work together very well. I think that was a good example. Thank you for that, Chief. Good information. We'll start at the beginning. Personnel services, it's the 1% increase that's across the board for town employees. That would cover my salary, the captain's salary, as well as the officer's salaries, and clerical, which would be captain. The overtime reserves and holidays, I've increased that by $2,000, and the reason that I've done that is because as salaries go up, so does the cost of overtime, and that covers the overtime, that covers the reserves when they work, and it covers all the holidays, so, there's an increased cost just every time somebody's salary goes up, their overtime rate goes up, so that's why that increased. Fringe benefits, they are what they are, you don't know what that is. Telephone, that has remained the same, as has automobile repairs, equipment maintenance, and anytime anybody has any questions about what anything is, please feel free. Training and memberships, that was $10,000 years ago, and we decreased that to $5,000 as a means of cutting the budget a couple of years back. And it just wasn't enough. $5,000 just isn't enough. So I changed that to $8,000, which if you would look at what I've spent already this year on training, you would find that we're already at $8,000 at this point in our year. So, I mean, that's a tough account. That includes so many different things. It includes just like the cost of the firing range is $600 a year. We pay $3,000 or $4,000 a year for ammo. There are actually, I have a list of there are a few things that we did. It's ammo, conferences that we go to. There are dues for the main chief's District 4, where we get a lot of information from them. There's training, obviously. That's depending on what it is. It's a lot of money here and there. There is the range I mentioned was $600. We just had an IMC training, which is our software training, that was $409, and it just, the list goes on and on. So anyway, that's why I increased that, was because that's what we're spending. That's just the reality of it. That's what it costs for training. Training is very important that we maintain that. So, court expenses, I kept that at $400. Sometimes we spend $350, sometimes we spend $200, it depends. And it's not necessarily shows how busy you are, it's just some cases go to court, and we have to pay the guys to go to court, and some cases don't. So that's kind of hit and miss.
So that's a really small amount, I don't know.
It
really
is.
care about. But what's it for? What do you do?
Well, what it does is it pays for officers on their day off that have to go to court. Now, for some strange reason, though, and I know exactly what you're thinking, for some strange reason, if we look at this historically, for some strange reason, guys will never go to court, it's on their day on. So, we're just covering their time while they're there. But honestly,
We don't go to court a whole hell of a lot. And the reason for that is, and I'll blow all our horns, is the guys put together some pretty good cases. You know, our cases, when they go to court, they're pretty solid.
Yeah, I just wondered, so you have to pay the person to go there, that's essentially.
Well, I mean, if it's their day off.
Yeah,
we're
right,
paying
yeah,
for it.
okay.
Yeah, and if it's a day long, we may have to pay for their meal.
So
or
it's
whatever.
not considered overtime in terms, it's a separate kind of thing, per diem kind of thing.
How many hours in a year's time do officers go to court to testify?
Well, I mean, and that's what I'm saying, is it's very slippery.
On an average.
Well, I mean, on average, you can see I'm $400 is what I'm paying now. If they're going
how much
on
an
duty, then it's coming out of their regular pay, but it's very slippery. I haven't been to court to testify in, God, it's probably been 10 years since I've been to court myself. Rick would go more than I do, but I don't, when's the last time you had to testify?
Other than grand jury, I don't testify hardly ever.
And it is truly a measure, I don't know how often you've been,
3
Gary.
to 4 times a year.
Yeah, and it depends. A lot of guys do a lot of traffic, and traffic seems to take more court time than the major cases do. On a major case, you're probably gonna go to court just for grand jury, and then it's gonna be dealt with through the plea process, honestly.
Other than forfeiture, you know, in drug cases, does I never see any revenues here for tickets. I mean, does any of this?
There are no revenues
None of
made
it
for
comes
tickets,
back
it all
to the
goes to
town.
the state every dime.
Every time?
We don't get a penny.
No sharing.
All the tickets we write, we don't get a penny of that.
So does that mean there's no incentive for the officer to go to court in traffic cases?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair statement. There's no incentive financially for an officer to do that, no. It's almost a disincentive, because it's costing us money and time,
But I'm sure you don't have a policy about
you know. No, I mean, we wanna do traffic and I mean, certainly my policy has always been, on traffic in particular, is just to, get them to obey the law. So I mean, if a warning works, then that's what we wanna do.
it. Are you gonna talk about your portable radar? I love that thing. That's-
We
brake lights
certainly
come on
have
all
one.
the time. when
Yeah,
it's-
yeah, and we get it out there as much as we can, wherever it is, and we get a lot of requests for it, you know, during the summer months. We're gonna put it out in the winter.
Does that belong to Oakland?
It does.
It does.
Is it working okay? Or is
Yeah,
it-
well, right now it's working okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had some issues with it in the past. We had to completely take the guts out of it and put new guts in, and that was an expensive concept, but.
Do they ever make those the right tickets? Of course, it wouldn't do it. So probably it's worth it. Well, like stoplight things.
Well, they certainly don't here.
But we
I'm sure they do in
don't,
other
we don't
states.
receive the income, so.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, I know down south there are some departments that are funded strictly by their traffic patrol. But we're not really.
Does that ever come up in the police chief's meetings whereby you think that you should be getting some of these revenues back because it takes up so much time in the department?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Then have to go through
that's
like
certainly come up.
legislature or
I mean, we've had that conversation, but the
Yeah.
legislature's not willing to do
That-
that.
Don't
That's
worry.
statute, right?
That's
That's,
statute,
yeah.
that's certainly statute.
There's pros and cons to both avenues of that.
Yeah, I mean, then you get into quota systems and all those kinds of undesirable things. So, I mean, it's not, it's not a bad thing. I agree with Gary. I mean, there are pros and cons. I think there are more pros to our system than cons.
What's your policy on paying officers on the day off to go to court? You get paid just the time they're there, or is it a minimum?
They get paid just the time they're there. We are not a union shop. Thank God.
So for how many dollars they gotta get dressed, drive to Waterville?
Well, they get paid for the time. They get paid for the time. They don't get paid if they're only there for 10 minutes and it only took them a half hour to get there and back. They're not paid for 4 hours. A lot of departments are 4 hour minimum. We're not
That's what
one
I'm
of them.
saying, minimum couple hours or whatever.
No.
So they're going out there for $20 less.
Like, well, also, it's a rare occasion. And also,
No, I'm
having
talking
a day off.
traffic. I'm talking traffic.
Even on traffic, it's a rare occasion.
Yeah, because they're only gonna make $20, take taxes out of it, they're getting 16. I'm gonna tell you right now, I ain't getting out of bed and going out to a traffic court for $16.
Well, I mean,
And
that's,
I know a lot of officers don't. You can say that they don't, but they don't go because they're not getting paid enough.
well, that's, our policy is if you have a court date, you go. That is our policy. And if they aren't, and I find out about it, then that's a problem, because that's part of their job.
So the person that is on duty and gets the court date, you don't replace him? They go and.
Well, generally speaking, during the day, if he's gone for an hour or so.
That's
Well,
okay.
we usually call the DA's office, and a lot of departments do this because we're smaller departments and you have one or two people on the road. We'll call the DA's office and say, if you need the officer there, call when you need him. Don't, I mean, it used to be back in the day that they would send us a notice 2 months ahead saying you need to be there on this day. And you'd go out there and sit there all day
Yeah,
and find out after you'd been there for 2 hours that they made a plea agreement 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
And they never told you, so that you wasted your time. So now we're a
So
little more careful about
working
that.
with
The DA's office is a little more cognizant of that as well, so it's not a problem. Certainly not a
I'm
problem.
sorry to bring it up for $400, but it was a good discussion.
Yeah, it is, and it's a fair discussion. No more questions on that, move on. The insurance, that is what it is. IT support, that went up because the cost of that went up. Now, IT support for us is water bills, IT department does all our stuff. And the reason they do that is because we share IMC with them. They dispatch for us, we share IMC, which is our operating software. And they maintain that. It's housed at their, we have, what's the wire we have? Fiber optics. We have a fiber optics system that connects us with Waterville, Winslow, and us, and the fire departments, and libraries, and town offices, and so forth. But that is what we're connected to. They actually have the hard drive out there. So they house that, they maintain it, and there is a lot of maintenance that they do. Plus, they maintain our computers for us at the station. They can maintain the computers that are in the cars as well, the MBTs. So those are all updated. So it's a fair price. We've actually done a study on that. We talked to other agencies, and we talked to Somerset. We had a meeting with Somerset, and they didn't want to touch it because they couldn't do what Water was doing for us for that price.
We certainly were upset when the increase came through. Waterville proposed changing it over to a per computer system, so we're paying per computer. And, but we did do some research on it. We found that we are getting a good deal compared to what other agencies could offer us the same service. And, we're still with it.
Supplies and materials, office supplies, you'll notice that I went up on that $2,500. There is a reason for that. And it's in here, I don't know if you read the thing in here, but there's a software program that's called Power DMS that's used by quite a few police departments in Maine. And what that software does for us is it manages the efficient distribution and control of policies, procedures, memos, all those kinds of things that we have to put out to the officers on a daily basis, that are training, that are required for them to sign off on. I mean, it's always been done via email, or it's been done for postings that we put up in the officer's room, and then they have to sign off that they read something. And, it can be months before you see somebody. And what this system does is number one, it works basically off email. So if I have a SOP change, a standing operating procedure change that I'm doing, I can put that in this system. It is emailed out to all the users, all the officers, and they are required to read it and sign off on it. And every week that they don't do that, they are given a reminder, another email sent to them saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. So it actually gets it done. We spend so much time chasing officers down, getting them to, especially because we have quite a few reserve officers, and we don't see them every day. We have officers that work at night. I don't see them every day. So, I mean, to try to chase these guys down and get them to sign off on these things and to make sure that they have them. You can also build in tests that if it's an SOP, if it's a use of force SOP that's required by the state that everybody knows and signs off on, you can actually put a mini test in there and make them take the test. And once they take the test, then it shows that they've signed off. Until they have done that, then they haven't. So that gives us, in this litigious society that we live in, that gives us that information system and that background to be able to show that our guys are properly trained as required. Yeah.
Will it also handle activities? Can you adopt it to handle activities later on as a record keeping tool?
Well, I think it can handle certainly SOPs, any memos that you put out that have
Yeah.
things that they have to do there. It's gonna make them sign off on things that you're putting